With YNW Melly's trial starting on the 12th of June, a lot has already been revealed by the prosecution and the defense in their opening statements. While the prosecution reveals shocking evidence against the rapper, who is accused of killing two of his friends, his lawyers also mount a strong defense in his favor. These are the insane moments in YNW Melly's trial. YNW Melly's murder case. Jamel Maurice Demons, alias YNW Melly, is no stranger to criminal activity. The rapper's upbringing saw him join the Bloods gang at a young age. Having been raised by his mom, YNW Melly seemed to lack a father figure in his early life. This, coupled with his association with the Bloods, meant that he would soon be involved in criminal activity. When he was only 16, the teenager was arrested for shooting at a group of students near Vero Beach High School. This resulted in the rapper being convicted of aggravated battery, discharging a firearm in public, and 2 counts of aggravated assault, and was sentenced to several months behind bars before being released on probation. However, the following year, the rapper was arrested for violating his probation. He was kept behind bars until March 2018. After he was released, the talented rapper was arrested again in Fort Myers 2 months later. This time, he was in possession of weed, drug paraphernalia, and weapons and ammunition. However, he was later released after bonding out, and in January 2019, the rapper was again arrested in possession of weed. The following month, YNW Melly would be arrested on charges that would shape his life for the next 4 years.
2 men are in jail this morning, including an up-and-coming Florida rapper. Both men are charged in a double murder. Police are saying the two staged a crime scene to make it look like a drive-by shooting.
On the 12th of February 2019, news broke out that Melly had been arrested in connection to the death of 2 of his friends, Anthony Williams, alias YNW Sack Chaser, and Christopher Thomas, alias YNW Juvie. The 2 were aged 21 and 19, respectively, and had been close friends with Demon. Murdered on the 21st of October 2018, it was widely believed that it was a drive-by shooting, as one of the victim's friends, YNW Bortland, drove the pair to the hospital in a Jeep Compass. However, months of investigation led the cops to believe that Demon was responsible for his friend's death and that Bortland had helped him cover up the crime. The pair were arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The police statement read, Jamel Demons, aka YNW Melly, and Cortland Henry have been arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The victims, Anthony Williams and Christopher Thomas Jr., were killed on October 26, 2018. The investigation, supported by forensic evidence, has concluded that Demons shot and killed Williams and Thomas Jr., and that Demons and Henry staged the crime scene to resemble a drive-by shooting. The rapper was quick to give his fans an update on the situation on Instagram, informing them that he would be turning himself in to authorities, as well as denying all allegations against himself and YNW Bortland. In the now-deleted Instagram post, Melly wrote, "To all my fans and supporters, no, I did not get locked up in Washington, but I am turning myself in today. I want you guys to know I love you and appreciate every single one of y'all. A couple months ago, I lost my 2 brothers by violence, and now the system wants to find justice. Unfortunately, a lot of rumors and lies are being said, but no worries, God is with me and my brother YNW Bortland. And we want y'all to remember it's a YNW family. I love you, YNW Sack Chaser and YNW Juvie. Free us." The state of Florida also announced that it would seek capital punishment against Melly, as prosecutors believe they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the rapper murdered his 2 friends. According to court documents, prosecutors said that the murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, and he committed homicide in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner. It is important to note that Florida is one of the 30 states where capital punishment is legal. According to police statements, YNW Bortland told cops that he and the 2 victims had just wrapped a late-night studio session when a car pulled up on his driver's side and opened fire as he was pulling off the freeway. He then drove to an emergency room in the early morning hours, asking for help for his 2 friends in his car, claiming they had been shot in a drive-by. Initial investigations that led to the arrest of Melly and Bortland revealed shocking information. The cops claimed that they had forensic evidence that proved Demon pulled the trigger after determining that neither victim was shot from outside, but rather from inside the car, disproving the drive-by account. They also confirmed that there were 8 bullet holes along the right side of the vehicle where Sack Chaser and Juvie had sat that night. Investigators also found a shell casing inside the vehicle, along with 8 matching shell casings in a different location, where they think Melly and Bortland shot the car to make it look like a drive-by. They also reported that they believe that the initial shot was fired from inside the car on the left rear passenger side. First, a review of CCTV footage that showed the group leaving the studio that night helped investigators determine that Melly had been sitting on the left rear passenger side of the car. Second, evidence from the autopsy revealed that both victims' wound paths to their heads were from a left to right direction. This directly contradicted the statement statements made by Bortland and does not support the statements of a drive-by shooting that occurred on the right side of the vehicle. Apart from that, police allege that Melly and Bortland drove around with the bodies of the two victims after they had been shot for a period of time before driving to the hospital. Interestingly, Bortland later told police that Melly was, in fact, in the same car as them, but eventually got into another vehicle. According to the authorities, they could prove that Demon murdered his friends for financial gain. After his arrest, his lawyers were quick to his defense, stating that, "We disagree with the assertions made in the notice and look forward to disapproving the charges." Melly's lawyers further proclaimed his innocence, claiming there was no murder weapon retrieved, no witnesses, no DNA evidence, and no motive. Hours after news broke of Melly's arrest, thousands of netizens clumsily linked the arrest to the rapper's breakout 2017 hit "Murder on My Mind," a song released a full 18 months before Sackchaser and Juvie were killed. The song combined punishing loneliness with vivid and brutal murder fantasies. The record was released while he was still in prison, where he served a 1-year sentence after being involved in a shootout near his high school in Vero Beach, Florida. Shortly after the rapper's release in 2017, he went back to jail for violating his probation. According to him, though prosecutors got him on a handful of minor infractions, his return to jail hinged on the actions of the state attorney, who read the second verse of the song to the courtroom. After his arrest, his lawyers believed that if using the song seemed to work when Melly was up for a handful of misdemeanors, then it would surely work now that he's on trial for double homicide. The defense anticipates that the prosecution will attempt to use the same song and lyrics in the same manner for the above referenced case, a court document read. Apart from seeking that the song not be used in the trial, Melly's lawyers tried to get him out on bond as he had no intentions of running away. According to his lawyers, all his friends and family resided in Florida, therefore proving he'd have no reason to flee. The defendant poses no flight risk, as he knew what the charges were pending against him and he still chose to self-surrender, the rapper's lawyers told the court. If he wanted to run, he would have run when learning of the misidentification of the other individual that was arrested at the venue in the District of Columbia. Apparently, after the rapper's arrest warrant was issued, the cops ended up arresting someone misidentified as Melly. His lawyers argued that if the client was going to take advantage of the possibility of leaving the state, he would have already done so. Unfortunately, their efforts were futile as the court denied Melly bond, and he remained in jail for 4 years as he waited for the trial to start. The rapper's woes did not stop there, as he was also named as a suspect in the shooting death of Deputy Gary Chambliss, a couple weeks after being arrested on the double murder charge. According to a witness, Demon and Bortland were standing with a group of men who chucked a bottle at a passing car. An occupant in the vehicle fired a weapon at the group, and one of the rappers allegedly returned fire. Standing 170 yards away, Chambliss was hit with a stray bullet and died. Prosecution's opening statement. YNW Melly's trial started on the 12th of June with opening statements from the prosecution and the rapper's defense. The rapper seemed to be in good spirits before the trial began. The prosecution revealed all the evidence that they had gathered, which revealed many shocking details. According to the prosecutor, on October 26, 2018, YNW Bortland showed up at Memorial Miramar Hospital with 2 dead bodies in his car at around 4:35 a.m. In the front passenger seat was Sackchaser's body, while Juvie's body was in the rear seat. The vehicle was riddled with bullets and filled with the victim's blood. Bortland then ran into the hospital begging for help as he narrated the story of the drive-by to the officer working detail at the hospital that night. According to Bortland's story to the cop, the group had left a music studio and were driving home. On the way home, the rapper told cops that they were shot at. This is the first insane moment in the trial, as Bortland told authorities that he ducked when the gunfire started. Upon ducking, the rapper told cops that he did not see any cars or people. He then quickly drove to the nearest hospital. The prosecution alleged that the rapper's story was false for one reason. They did not find any evidence at the supposed crime scene. Apparently, detectives were quick to shut down the entire length of Miramar Parkway, where the alleged drive-by took place. They then walked side by side for an hour, covering a mile-long stretch looking for evidence of the drive-by shooting. According to cops, they did not find shell casing, glass fragments, or even tire marks. The detectives even covered an extra mile in case they had gotten the location wrong, but they could not find any evidence of a drive-by shooting. Apart from that, the prosecutor revealed that the gray Jeep the rappers were traveling in had its 2 left side windows and rear view window broken from the bullets. According to cops, this did not add up since the ballistics from the drive-by showed that the bullets came from the passenger side towards the driver's side of the vehicle and then from the rear of the vehicle forward towards the front. However, autopsies conducted on the victims' bodies showed that their wounds seemed to have come from inside the vehicle from the rear driver's side passenger seat, going out towards the passenger side. Remember, CCTV footage of the group leaving the studio that night helped investigators determine that Melly had been sitting on the left rear passenger side of the car. With Bortland's story not adding up, detectives came up with a theory of that night's events. According to the cops' theory, there were 8 young men at the studio that night. At around 3:19 a.m., the group decided to leave the studio in 2 vehicles, a gray Jeep and red Mitsubishi. Surveillance footage shows the vehicles both heading in the same direction. At around 3:50 a.m., the red Mitsubishi was captured on CCTV going through the guard gate at Sunset Lakes, which is a gated community where the group of 8 were all living at the time. However, the gray Jeep did not enter Sunset Lakes. Instead, it proceeded to the scene of the homicide.
And you will then see it at 3:50 a.m. going through the guard gate at Sunset Lakes.
It is important to point out that at this point, cops were not relying on CCTV footage. Instead, the prosecutor revealed that detectives tracked the phones of everyone who was in the Jeep. It was also revealed that Melly and Sackchaser phones were the same make and model. They also used the exact same cell phone plan, which meant that they were using the same service and cell towers. Therefore, detectives were able to compare the information from the 2 cell phones and track the vehicle's movements. Cops also tracked the red Mitsubishi in relation to the Jeep using the same method. Turns out YNW Juvie and an individual in the Mitsubishi had the same phone make, model, and used a similar cell phone service. By tracking their phones, detectives revealed that the Jeep traveled up to Pines Boulevard and then proceeded west to the edge of the Everglades, which, according to the prosecution, is desolate. The 4 then drove further south and turned on Pembroke Road. Here, the prosecutor dropped another bombshell. It turns out that Pembroke Road dead ends at a trash facility. The area did not have any streetlights or people passing, making it a perfect place to carry out the murders. Detectives allege that the car stopped and Melly exited the vehicle and staged the drive-by. According to them, there were no other cell phones in the area during that time, which meant that the 4 rappers were alone that night.
The state intends to show the evidence that the phone was there at the murder scene, and there were no other phones there. There is no one else out there at 4 in the morning.
It is important to remember that when Bortland arrived at the hospital, Melly was not present. According to the defendants, as the 2 vehicles drove home from the studio, they stopped and the rapper got out of the Jeep and got into the Mitsubishi. This means that he went home while the Jeep took a detour to Pembroke Road. However, as the prosecutor broke it down, evidence from his cell phone shows that this was a lie and that Melly was actually in the Jeep as it headed towards the desolate Pembroke Road. As the Jeep headed to the hospital, YNW Melly was left on the side of the road as shown by data from his cell phone. This is where the prosecutor's story gets bizarre. Melly made a FaceTime call to his then girlfriend, Mariah Hamilton. While on the FaceTime call, Mariah screamed, waking up her mother who was in the house with her. Melly then explained to his girlfriend and her mother that he had just been involved in a drive-by shooting and that Sackchaser and Juvie may be dead. This FaceTime call is crucial to the case as it gives Melly's story a bit of credibility. Remember, the only way detectives could have collected this information is by questioning Melly's girlfriend and her mom and not from the cell phone company. So the 2 women are his alibi and prove that a drive-by did take place. After getting off the FaceTime call, the rapper then sent a pin location at 4:42 a.m. to Frederick Givens, popularly known as Fredo Bang, a rapper from Louisiana. The medical examiner, who was crucial in determining the bullet's ballistics, also helped detectives uncover another shocking detail. It turns out that at around 4:02 a.m. when the drive-by was allegedly staged, the victims were already dead. YNW Sackchaser's gunshot wound to the head was fatal, and he had died on the spot. YNW Juvie's fatal gunshot wound was to his left cheek, which seems impossible if the shots were coming from the passenger's side towards the driver's side of the vehicle. The gunshot wound would have been on his right cheek. Another shocking detail that was uncovered by the prosecution was that the cops discovered a spent shell casing for a .40 caliber. This is a huge discovery since it would mean that there is a huge probability that the gun was fired from inside the Jeep. However, even more shocking is that once cops used cell phone data to discover that the vehicle stopped at Pembroke Road, cops went to search the area and found some damning evidence. They located an additional 8 shell casings for a .40 caliber. It is important to note that investigators found this evidence a month later, after they obtained reliable cell phone tracking data, which helped them narrow down the area that they needed to search. However, no firearms were recovered from the crime scene. Detectives were also able to obtain the rapper's social media messages through search warrants, which revealed the most shocking detail in the case. After news of the alleged drive-by hit the news, Melly's Instagram inbox was filled with messages as many people wanted to know whether he was okay and whether Sackchaser and Juvie were dead. According to the prosecutor, one individual sent Melly a DM asking him, "Yo homie, you good? Let me know something." YNW Melly's reply was chilling and may shape the outcome of the case. According to the prosecutor, Melly snitched on himself and confessed to the murder. The prosecutor revealed that the rapper replied to the DM saying, "I did that. Shh."
And Mr. Demmons responds very succinctly, I did that. Shh.
Although it is possible that Melly could have been alluding to anything, the prosecution argued that the context of his reply was crucial in determining that he was talking about the shooting.
So in the context of this message, this individual is reaching out, asking if Mr. Demmons is good, after he's been tagged in multiple social media posts about this drive-through.
The prosecution argued that the only context that the message could have been sent under was the shooting that had happened earlier. This is because the messages that he was receiving that morning all had a similar theme. They were inquiring about the tragic incident. To Melly's relief, the prosecutor revealed that his music would not be used in the case.
And this is not just in music videos. This is not just in lyrics. Because we're not going to get into that. That's artistic expression.
This had been his lawyer's fears since he had allegedly been put behind bars because of lyrics in his hit single, Murder on My Mind. This would not have been the first time a rapper's lyrics have been used by detectives in an investigation. Bobby Shmurda, 6ix9ine, and Nuke Bizzle come to mind. For Shmurda, lyrics from his hit single, Hot and were almost used in court. According to the authorities, the rapper's lyrics were almost like a real-life document of what he and his gang were doing on the streets. Although the judge rejected the application of lyrics as evidence in the case, detectives revealed that they were crucial clues during their investigations. On the other hand, 6ix9ine's music was used in court during his trial. According to authorities, his music contained evidence of organized crimes and gang conspiracies. Prosecutors even played parts of 6ix9ine's breakout single, Gummo, during his testimony. Nuke Bizzle's case was more straightforward, as lyrics from his song not only notified cops that he was actively committing crimes, but they also explained exactly how he was doing it. The rapper was caught stealing stimulus checks that were being sent by the government to needy people during the pandemic. The rapper could not believe how easy money was coming in that he decided to do a song full of incriminating lyrics. I gotta shout out to Donald Trump. I just might swipe me a lump sum. I'm in Dior having money fun. I done got rich off of EDD, Bizzle raps. His song, EDD, was used as evidence to prove that he was committing fraud. Given the good news that his song would not be used as evidence, his defense was put to the task to try to show that the rapper was innocent of any wrongdoing, especially after Florida's death penalty threshold was lowered. Florida's governor, Ron DeSantis, signed a law in April that would allow juries to recommend a death sentence with an 8-4 vote. With the prosecution heaping a lot of evidence on YNW Melly, his lawyer took to the courtroom floor to present his case. Defense. Opening statement. Melly's lawyer began his opening statement by trying to show that the cops had not established a motive. It is important for detectives to establish a motive in murder cases, especially those that are not open and shut cases such as YNW Melly's case. According to the attorney, Melly had no reason to kill his best friends. They had grown up together, hung out together, and were becoming rap stars together. He pointed out that if after 4 years of investigations, the authorities had not established any motive, then there simply wasn't any. However, YNW Juvie's father may have revealed Melly's motive in the murders. While speaking to Law and Crime Network, Juvie's father spoke about the various reasons that Melly may have had to kill his son and YNW Sack Chaser. The first reason was money related. According to him, Juvie had opened up to him about a deal that would see the three artists, Melly, Juvie, and Sack Chaser, share $500,000 among them. Melly and Sack Chaser would get $200,000 each, while Juvie would get $100,000.
It's not reported, but Chris told me the same story, and also with a $500,000 play, and Melly was going to get $200,000, Sack was going to get $200,000, and Chris was going to get $100,000.
The deal involved the three selling the YNW brand to make it global. Since the three were the founding members, they were all entitled to a piece of the pie.
And as I'm hearing it from Chris, they was going to sell the YNW brand, not a record deal or nothing like that. It was like for the brand itself. And by them being founding members, they was going to get a piece of the pie.
Juvie's father also revealed that he believed that Melly's manager, 100K Track, may have deceived his client into trying to get all the money for himself. There were even rumors that Sack Chaser did not want 100K Track around. 100K may have seen this as a threat and may have influenced Melly to take care of him.
I don't think Melly did it on his own. I think that manager guy got in his ear and did a little divide and conquer. Because if it was up to Sack, it would never be a 100K management.
The other motive was revenge related. According to Juvie's dad, there were rumors that apart from Melly getting into a verbal disagreement with Sack Chaser, the two were involved in a fistfight. Sack Chaser had beaten up Melly in front of his then girlfriend Mariah Hamilton.
You know, you heard things about him and Anthony getting into like altercations about disputes about money over certain situations, and they got in a fight prior to that, and they said, like, you know the story that they say Sack beat him up and knocked his goals out in front of his girlfriend, and like 2 days later, I think that's when the incident happened.
Humiliated, Melly might have sought to take his revenge by killing Sack Chaser. Juvie's dad revealed that just 2 days after the Sack Chaser had embarrassed Melly, he ended up dead in the gray Jeep. Generally, Juvie's father is certain that Melly is guilty of the 2 murders. According to him, he knew from the very beginning that Melly was responsible.
From the day one, I believe that Melly was responsible for my son's death on October 26th.
When Juvie's dad talked to them on FaceTime, they did not seem as if they were sad or grieving. They did not seem like people who had lost their best friends. Instead, they appeared to be in good spirits.
His explanation, when I finally talked to him and Cortland on a FaceTime, their response and how they was reacting, they showed no remorse. They didn't act like they was grieving, like they lost a best friend or nothing. They was, in my opinion, they was in the best spirits.
Shockingly, Melly did not even attend any of his best friend's funerals. He went to Brevard to shoot a music video, passing Sack's mom's home without going to check up on her.
They never came to town, never came to my son's funeral, never came to Sack's funeral. And these are your best friends. He passed straight through the county of Indian River, went to Brevard and did a music video, but he couldn't even stop and pay his condolences to his best friend's mom.
According to Melly's lawyer, the lead detective was quick to accuse his client because he found out that he was a rising hip-hop artist. The attorney insinuated that the lead investigator had failed to pursue other credible leads and rushed to accuse Melly for clout, saying that because if you're involved in prosecuting a star, you become a star.
And then he discovered that Mr. Demons was a rising star. And from that point on, he decided he's the only person that could have committed this crime. Because if you're involved in prosecuting a star, you become a star.
The attorney argued that detectives had identified various leads, which they had ignored or had been briefly followed up on.
There are a number of leads that you will discover that were identified by the officers, but were either completely ignored or given short shrift.
One of the leads that the attorney points out is a gentleman called Montrell Roll and his sister Nia Hewitt. Apparently, cops from another department came across jail calls between the two that occurred within 3 days after the murders. The two discussed details of the murders that had not been made public, meaning that they may have been involved. While Hewitt was interrogated because of the conversation, detectives did not bother to question her brother on the same. As a result, cops lost a lead that may have helped in solving the murder mystery. Another lead that the attorney argued could have been pursued more aggressively by detectives was a gentleman called Robert Colbert. Colbert was the owner of a social media account that was used to post a message that may have led detectives to the murderers.
Social media account by the name of Backwards. This social media account, almost immediately, within days after these murders, posts this message: LOL. We killed 2 of you.
The lawyer revealed that it took detectives 7 months to go and talk to Colbert. By this time, he claimed that he had already sold the account, although he did not know who had bought it. The attorney mentions other cases where the investigators failed to follow up thoroughly. However, this was reminiscent of TXXTentacion's murder case, where the defendant's lawyers tried to argue that the cops had not investigated Drake for his role in X's murder. This was due to an Instagram post that the late rapper sent out accusing Drake of trying to have him killed. If anyone kills me, it was you, Champagne Poppy. I'm snitching right now. Although he later deleted the post and claimed his account had been hacked, the damage was already done. The defense attorney for one of X's killers attempted to subpoena Drake for a deposition. The lawyer referenced X's infamous Instagram post claiming Drake was planning on killing him. He claimed that the authorities did not investigate this lead, noting that hip-hop was notorious for beefs that often escalated to murder. Do you think any detective has ever asked Drake or anybody like that? No, they never did that. The lawyer famously asked the court. Mauricio Padilla alleged that Drake had close ties to several people with gang affiliations who could have ordered a hit on X. Drake's lawyers hit out at the allegations, saying, in a case such as this, it is both unreasonable and oppressive to subpoena an out-of-state party who has not been mentioned in any reports, any investigation, or reference to have any involvement in this matter. Based on the evidence so far provided in this case, there is video that purports to show the defendants allegedly as participants in the murder of the victim. No evidence has been provided to substantiate the assertion that Graham in any way contributed to, had knowledge of, or participated in the alleged incident. and to mandate that he appear for deposition for something that he very clearly has no relevant knowledge of is unreasonable. Drake dodged a bullet as one of the suspects, Robert Allen, agreed to confess to the murder for a lighter sentence. According to Allen, Drake did not pay them to carry out the murder. This prompted the judge to cancel the requested deposition, meaning that Drake would no longer be asked to appear before the court. With the defendant's attorney failing in X's murder case, one wonders whether Melly's lawyers will succeed. There is also a feeling that Bortland may snitch on Melly to get a lighter sentence, given the severity of the case. There is a feeling among some people following the case that Melly's attorney is set on putting blame on everyone else apart from his client. Shockingly, the lawyer even tried to put Bortland on the spot by saying that he lied to the cops on 2 occasions. He also faulted investigators for failing to search his residence for weapons or blood-stained clothes, even after they found out he was lying. According to him, all these examples meant that the authorities had botched the investigation. There may be a chance that if the lawyer continues down this path, Bortland may have to testify, and maybe against Melly. Many rappers have come out in support of the rapper as the trial continues. Lil Durk shared a picture of Melly in the courtroom on his Instagram story with the caption, "Free at YNW Melly." The two rappers have previously collaborated with Lil Baby on the 2021 track Take Care. On the other hand, Boozy Badass appeared in court to support YNW Melly. He even posted that he would never miss another rap artist's murder trial. "I'm not missing no more rap murder trials. This is educational, no cap. Watching the defense and prosecution drop bars, then looking at the jurors trying to read them is crazy," he wrote. "I want to study law. I want to try it. I think I can be a defense attorney or at least help some attorneys out. I'm motivated." Kodak Black's lawyer was optimistic about Melly's chances of beating the case as he posted that the case would be tough for the prosecution. Day 2 is coming up on the YNW Melly case. The first few days of trial are not that interesting in regards to a story or the real meat of the case. This case is going to be very technical with phones and date, etc. But again, they can't say someone else didn't get in the car or someone else did the shooting. I think the case is built in reasonable doubt, and I saw a lot of the discovery while I was on the case. Like I said, this will be a tough case for the prosecution. As the case continues, it will be interesting to hear from those who take the stand and what each side has prepared. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.